Welcome class to your lecture video for Chapter 3, Working with Text and Cascading Style Sheets. So first off, what is Cascading Style Sheets, or CSS? CSS are sets of formatting instructions usually stored in a separate file that control the appearance and position text and graphics on a web page or throughout a website. So they're a great way for us to define consistent formatting attributes for page elements, such as our paragraphs, lists, and maybe some table data. But they also allow us to apply formatting to attributes to any element in a single document or to all of the web pages in a website. And so we're going to step through the objectives that are listed before you. We're going to create unordered and ordered lists. Then we're going to look at the CSS Designers panel, where we'll be creating our rules for styling. So we're going to learn how to apply, edit, and add those rules. We're going to understand related files. So we're going to look at that related files toolbar. And then we're going to dive more into the style sheet with regards to striped umbrella and look at the media queries. And then we'll talk about Adobe Edge web fonts, and then we'll use coding tools to view and edit our rules. So lots of information in Chapter 3. So I suggest that maybe you kind of break this video up, take maybe 2 or 3 sections out of Chapter 3 at a time, and then just kind of use the video to help guide you through that. So I'm going to start on page 3-4 and 3-5. So this isn't exactly striped umbrella, but this is talking about unordered lists and ordered lists. And so the difference between them is what you see in front of you. That's an unordered list when I'm listing out the objectives, where an ordered list would have a number value to them, whether they be a decimal value or a Roman numeral, and so on. So it's really what's talked about on pages 3-4 and 5. Sometimes we refer the unordered list as to a bulleted list, and then we have the ordered list, sometimes referred to as a numbered list. The last section on page 3-5 talks about a definition list, and from my research in 2017, really can't be creating definition lists through Dreamweaver per se. It's still something that you can do in HTML through the code view, but I'm not going to be covering how to create a definition list. So let's jump into page 3-6 and let's create an unordered list using striped umbrella. So we're going to be using the SPA page. And so what we're going to be working with is these items that are underneath each kind of subheading, if you will. So massages, facials, and body treatments. So when we're creating an unordered list or even an ordered list, Dreamweaver and HTML5 use paragraphs as a way to break apart each list item. So I'm going to go ahead and look at code view first, just to show you that when I look at sports massages, it goes from sports massages, and then we have a line break with our break tag, and then it goes our deepest massage for tense and sore muscles, not recommended for first-time massage clients. So this right here is going to become a list item. Then the paragraph ends, and then we start a new paragraph, and the paragraph ends. And so you're going to see that Dreamweaver and HTML5 use paragraphs to break up the list items. So I'm going to go ahead and select these 3, and then I'm going to use my properties inspector. Why isn't it like popping out at me here? There we go, properties. And I'm just going to click on the bulleted or the unordered list icon. Okay, so now we can see we have 3 list items. I'm going to continue on and do facials in the same way. And then down here with body treatments. Now with body treatments, there's only 3 of them, so make sure you don't grab the call. Okay, so now we have 3 unordered lists in our page. Let's go ahead and look at code view. So now we've lost the paragraph, so we have an opening UL tag to a closing UL, and closes the entire list, and then each paragraph is replaced with an opening LI list item to closing list item. Okay, still have the break tags there. Okay, so that is pages 6 and 7. Okay, working with an ordered list, much the same way. This time we need to actually open up a data file to bring in some more text on the page. So I'm just going to select all my content, copy it, and then they want us to paste it right after extension 39. So I'm going to hit enter, paste, and so now we have questions you may have, and how do I schedule, all the way down to what about tipping. Now I have this extra space here, so I got my cursor flashing, and I'm just going to hit the backspace. Actually, maybe hit the delete key. Okay, so the delete key to take out that extra spacing. So now I'm going to select how do I schedule spa services to what about tipping. Be careful not to grab the address, and then I'm going to click on the ordered list icon. So now I have 4 items in my list. Okay, so that's page 8. Page 9 talks about format an unordered list heading. So place your insertion point in the heading questions you may have. So you can do it that way, or if you feel more comfortable, you can highlight all 4 words. If you're inside an opening tag to a closing tag, it will automatically format everything the same. So in this case, it's a heading 3 to a closing header 3. And so we want to italicize. Is that what we want to do? Nope, we want to make it a header 3. So it's from a paragraph to a heading 3. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and save, and I'm going to close out questions.txt. Okay, lesson 2 is create a cascading style sheet and apply, edit, and add rules. Okay, so this work gets a little bit more complicated. I'm going to do my best to step you through this process. Pages 10 and 11 really go into the depth of what cascading style sheets is. So go ahead and read through that and write down any questions you may have. You can send them to me. There's 3 ways that we can employ or use CSS in our document. It can be inline, it can be embedded, or it can be external. We're really going to work with external in this class. A lot of times we use embedded and inline just to test out styles to see perhaps if we want to style that way, and then we eventually move it to be external. The purpose of using external style sheets like su_styles.css is that we can apply the same styling to all of our HTML pages within the website. Okay, so that's kind of what's talked about in the first paragraph on page 10. And then we have classified by their type. So we have classes that we can use, IDs we can use, tags that we can use, and then we have what we call compound. And so these are all things that I'll talk about as I go and employ some of these actual CSS rules. Okay, the selector is anything that we want to style. Okay, so if I want to style just the word spa here, okay, I'm going to have to figure out how I'm actually going to get to that word spa and style it. Okay, so that's just a simple example. Understanding the advantages of using style sheets, again, it's a way to keep consistency throughout the entire website. Heading 3s are styled this way. Heading 1s are styled this way. We're going to style our images this way. And so it's a consistency across that way, but also ease of maintenance. If I can go to one file, such as SU styles, and change a style there, and it applies to 1,000 web pages, that is a beautiful thing. Okay, so ease of maintenance and consistency. So with regards to the related files toolbar, again, this is up here across the top. We've got your source code for your HTML file, the structure of it. Boilerplate. Remember, we don't touch this. This is for cross-browser styling, and it works with some fluid details as well. So we're not going to touch this one. SU styles is where we're going to be working with, and then we have respond.min. So if you're in SU styles, this is where you could add or edit CSS styles. We're going to use a panel to actually go through that. If you want to venture and type in code, modify code, you certainly can do that. Okay, so let's go on to page 12 and let's use our CSS Designers panel. So if it's docked, you want to take it and drag it out. It's just easier to work with that way. I'm going to go ahead and close my Properties Inspector for now. And then I'm going to expand the width of the CSS Designer so that I get 2-column layout. Okay. Now I think I've talked about this in Chapter 2. We have sources, okay, and then we have media, and then we have selector. So there's 3 sections to the left side of the CSS Designers panel. Sources happens to be these related files, okay, and we're going to build a new source. Now if I'm on SU styles, I'm only going to see SU styles here. If I'm on source code, then I get to see all of my CSS style sheets. Okay, so make sure that you're always on source code when you're in CSS Designer. Another button you want to make sure that you're working with is you want to make sure that you're always on all. If you're on current, it's only going to show you the current style. Okay, so make sure you're on all and make sure you're on source code. Okay. So it says select the CSS button in the Property Inspector. Okay, so instead of that, I just want you to pull the CSS Designers panel out, which is in number 2. And it says resize in number 3, and then create a new CSS file. So that's a source. Okay, so a new file would be a source. So I click on my Add CSS Source button, and I create a new CSS file. Now I want to go ahead and I want to browse to my root folder for my website. So in Striped Umbrella, we're going to be in Striped Umbrella. In Blooms, you're going to be in your Blooms folder, and so on. So here I'm just going to type in headings. Okay, there's no need to type .css at the end because it defaults to Cascading Style Sheets type of file. So I go ahead and click Save. And we want to leave this as the default of link. Okay, so now I have an additional source called headings.css. There is no media queries in it, and there are no selectors in it. Essentially, it's just a blank, brand new file for us to use. Okay, so we jump over to number 5 on page 13, where it says select headings.css if it's not already selected, and then we're going to add a selector. So this is where we start using the structure of our document, using the content to actually style. So I'm going to click on plus, and then I'm going to put in a class. Classes are prefixed with periods. And sometimes you have to hit enter more than once, just depending on what version you're in. So list headings, class, and then the next step is to uncheck this show set. Show set gives us a summary of all the styles that we have for that particular selector. Okay, so show set. If we uncheck it, we get to see all of the different categories that we can apply. So in this case, we want to go to the text category, and we're going to apply 5 different styles. So we want a color, put the hashtag in, 4 zeros and 2 6s, and then we have font family of Sago, so that's the very last one, and then font style, we got normal, font weight to bold, and font size to medium. And now if I click on show set, I should see those 5 styles that I just set. If I need to add more, I uncheck, I get my 5 little icons across the top, and I can add more. If I need to modify, there's many things I can do. I can hover over, I can use the color swatch, I can type in a new number, I can disable that CSS property. Disable means that it's still there, but I'm not using it. So as a way to kind of test back and forth, is this kind of the styling that I want to use? And then there's the trash icon where I can remove that CSS property as well. So again, class starts with a period. Okay, only classes start with a period. Okay, and I'll point out where you would not want to use that period. Okay, so now I've got the styles set up. Okay, but now I need to apply it to the actual content that I want to use. And I use the Property Inspector to go about doing that. So I'm going to go Window and get my Properties Inspector back. So it says place the insertion point anywhere in the paragraph heading massages. Okay, so it says the paragraph heading massages. Don't confuse it with massages up here, which will become eventual hyperlinks for us. So anywhere in that heading, and then we're going to use the Properties Inspector. Okay, so if you're in HTML, you're going to use class, And then we're going to come down and you can see list headings is right there for us to use, and you can see that the actual styling of what we set up is actually there for us to view as well. So we click on list headings and it changes. If you're in CSS, you're going to use targeted rule and you're going to find list headings in that list. Okay, so stay in HTML and use class. Okay, we scroll down, we find facials, we do the same thing. Scroll down, we find body treatments, and we do list headings as well. Okay, so again, applying the consistency. Now the next thing is, hey, I don't know if my font size is large enough. Maybe it's not the color that I want to use. So I go back to my CSS Designers panel, and in this case, this step is on page 15, number 2. They want us to take the font size from medium, which is the default, and they want it to change it to large. Now I want you to watch body treatments in the background here. It updates to be larger. Okay, and all of them, the one above it, facials and massages, update as well. So again, ease of maintenance and consistency. Now if I'm in massages and I click on current, okay, that's when I'm going to see exactly currently where I'm at. Okay, so again, always just make sure you're in all, because otherwise it just can be confusing at times. Pages 16 and 17. View code with the code navigator. So it says point to the massages heading and then alt click. Okay, so I'm going to hold down my alt and click. Let me get some of these panels closed. Alt click, and this pops up the code navigator. So now I can see that these are the 3 style sheets that are applied to this document. I can kind of see which styles are being there. We've got a number of classes and SU styles. If I hover over list headings, I can actually see the styles that I created earlier. Okay, so that is viewing them. And then on page 17 we have, it says select list headings in the code navigator. Okay, and then the code splits into 2 panes where you can see actually list headings down here. Headings.css is selected in your related files toolbar, and this is where you could manage it. Okay, and they want us to update that color to a different shade of blue. I click up here and now it's changed to a darker blue. It almost looks black. Okay, continuing on to page 18, it says add a tag selector. So tags are what you see here in the source code. Okay, so anything that begins with an opening wicket to a closing wicket, what is in between is considered a tag. Okay, we do not want to prefix these with periods, okay, because they're not classes. They're actually existing tags that we can apply styles to. So in this case, it says add selector, and we're going to type in just H1. Okay, so if you start typing, you're going to see, without the period, you're actually going to see all of the different, I gotta bring that back here, I'm not sure why I lost it. I'll go ahead and modify that. But you just see a list of tags that match whatever character you've entered in. So here's header 1. Again, I uncheck the show set to get all of my categories, and I want to go to text. Page 19, number 5, we got font family, and we're going to go to Gotham. Font size of extra large, and notice this is the header 1 over here that's being changed. Okay, so I don't even have to apply it because it's an actual tag that exists in the structure. So font size extra large. Okay, and then we have show set. Okay, so those 2 styles. And then we're going to add another one called header 2, and I'm going to add another one, header 3. Okay, so they're there. Go to header 2, add the text, Gotham, and then large. So font family, same font family, creating consistency, and then the font size is large. And then I'm going to come to show set. I got those 2, header 3, text, font family, same font family, and font size, my guess is a little smaller, which is medium, and show set. Okay, so if I review them, I got header 1, Gotham, extra large, header 2, Gotham, large, header 3, Gotham medium. So just going a little smaller in each one. Okay, so these are header 2. I can see that down in my tag selector. And these are just paragraphs with list with that class of list item set. So we really can see the header 2 and the header 1 in this case. We don't have any header 3s in this document. Okay. Oh, yeah, we do. This is a header 3, so this is that font size of medium. Okay, so I was watching this tag selector down here in the bottom where it says body, div, 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 and header 3. So it's a good way for you to watch exactly what tags. And you can see here we've got body, div, 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 OL, LI. That's an ordered list, and then the list items in it. Okay, lesson 3 brings us into understand related files and media queries. So related files I don't think I need to spend any more time on, simply because we see them up here. They're related files. They're actually what support the structure of the document, whether it be through presentation or functionality. Just make sure again that you're always on all, and that so you see all of your sources. So we're going to jump in and talk about media queries. So Dreamweaver designs media queries when we create a document in a fluid type of layout. It designs from the smartphone to a tablet to a desktop. So it goes from the smallest device to the next largest to the desktop that you would be working on a computer or a laptop. And so when we look at the media query behind SU styles and how this file is set up, I'm going to take you all the way to the top of SU styles, and we're going to see it says simple fluid media. Note, fluid media requires that you remove the media's height and width attributes from HTML, and it just gives a source. So all of this stuff here on the top, okay, all the way down till you see the comment tablet. Okay, so I get down to line 105. Everything above 105 is considered global. Okay, global CSS styles, meaning it applies to everything. Okay, to the smartphone, to the tablet, to the desktop. Unless we specify something different in tablet, the global is going to be applied. If we specify something different in desktop, then that applies to the desktop, but not to tablet or to global. Okay, hopefully that makes a little bit of sense at this point. Now I want you to look at the media queries and how they're structured. It says at media only screen. Okay, so only, we're viewing it through a screen. We're not viewing it on a printer. Okay, only screen and min width 481. Okay, so minimum width, okay, nothing smaller, 481. Okay, so it says tablet layout 481 to 768 pixels. And then it says inherits styles from the mobile layout. So we have all the global. They inherit all the way down unless we change them. So in tablet we can change styles. And I'll show you one for example. Header div. Okay, this is global. It's on line 42. It says background image SU logo.gif. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you this SU logo. Let's see if I can just hover over top of it. There it is, the striped umbrella. Now that's not the striped umbrella banner that you've been looking at because you've been looking at it on a desktop. Okay, so when I go down to tablet, there's another period header underscore div or class of header div, and here is the banner that you've been seeing on your website. So again, we define for the smartphone, we redefine for the tablet, and we even further redefine for the desktop layout. Okay, so that's your media queries. When I look at the CSS Designers panel, I see those media queries here. Here's global. That's the top of the file. Only screen and min width 481. That's your tablet. Okay, or maybe iPad. Okay, only screen and min width 769. That's your desktop layout. Okay. Okay. So, questions on that? Please let me know. So those are your media queries. So when you're reading the directions, it's going to say create a global style. So you want to make sure that you're in source code, that you select your correct style sheet, and that you select your correct media query before you go ahead and you add a selector or even modify a selector. Okay, so examining Media queries, I think I just went through all of that. You can see the comments. Let's go back to SU styles, and if I keep going down, I find a new one, desktop layout 769 to 1232. Okay. Also worthy of pointing out is that the media query starts with a curly brace and it ends with a curly brace. Okay, all CSS styles have their curly braces as well, but we want to enclose the media query in a set of curly braces too. So desktop begins with a curly brace and ends with a curly brace. So we never want to have any code following this. And I'll show you that what'll happen when we move styles, it'll be put here and then we have to actually move it within this file as well. Okay, moving on to Adobe. Add Adobe Edge web fonts, because I don't think we do. I just pointed out everything that we need to on pages 22 and 23. Choosing fonts. So beyond the list of what you saw in the CSS Designers panel, and let's say for headings, and we did list headings, so a font family here, we can define and manage more fonts. Okay, we can bring them in from Adobe WebKit. It allows us to have a lot more variety than these default font lists. Okay, and so that's what's talked about on pages 24 and 25, and it's Adobe Typekit that they're coming from. Figure 31 shows you the actual script tag that is bringing in that particular font. So it says HTTP, and then it says use.edgefonts.net/source-sans.pro :n2:default.js. Okay, you'll always see the font name in that path, and so that font name is Source Sans Pro. Okay, and then there'll be a little bit more information that will be following it. Okay, so you want to look for that when your Adobe fonts are not working. And I'll point out page 27 because that's usually what causes them not to work. So let's start on page 26 though. It says select headings.css. So let's get into headings, and then heading 1, and we're going to go to font family and we're going to click on manage fonts. Now over here on the left side you're going to see categories. So this one is a list of fonts recommended for headings, paragraphs, and then it'll just go into these different categories. Well, we're going to look at headings. Okay, and in headings they want us to choose Source Sans Pro. So I'm going to scroll down, find Source Sans Pro. I check it, I get a little check mark, and then I click Done. Now notice that it didn't update it here. Okay, so what we did is we added it to our list, but now we have to select it from our list. So now we have an Adobe web font, and we select it, and now it updates it. Okay, so if I go back and I look at the design view, and I scroll up to my heading 1, okay, I have some, it looks like, hey, it didn't do anything. It just looks like a normal font. Okay, so here's the deal. Go to live view, and you'll be able to see that updated font. Okay, make sure that you always complete the step that's on page 27. Okay, because a lot of times this will get us into trouble. It's not the commands menu as specified in number 1, it's the tools menu. Okay, so and this is in 2017 version of Dreamweaver. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to design view, and then I'm going to click on tools, and then I'm going to click clean up web font script tag current page. Before I do that though, I'm curious. I'm going to go to code view and I'm going to look at it and see, and here it looks fine. Pulled it in exactly the way it needs to. But it's always a good idea to do this and run that so that it updates it correctly. Okay. Now the reason I had to go to live view or even pull it into a browser is because it's going to an external website to bring in that font. So I'm not connected to an external website when I'm in design view. Okay, so make sure to always do that. Use coding tools to view and edit rules is pages 28 and 29. So when we look at code view, we have all of these tools down here that we can work with. The one that I suggest that you work with the most is code hints, which is figure 38. So if you're typing code and if you feel comfortable typing code, go ahead and type it. But allow Dreamweaver to do the coding for you. If it pulls up a code hint for you, select it from the list. Prevent you from mistyping it. Also watch the color coding. And even in the CSS, watch the color coding. Now, I have a different color scheme that maybe you're working with, and so it really depends on the color scheme and what colors you will see for selectors. This is a class, by the way, and these are properties and these are values. When I go to the source code, I got different colors as well. Text is always, the content is always in black. So if your code actually turns up in black, you have issues. Okay, collapsing code. So if I want to just collapse a section of code, I can use arrows. If I want to collapse everything in the body section, I can collapse it down. I click the arrow again to bring it back. So it's just a way to personalize exactly what we're working with at the time. And so that's pages 30 and 31. There's different options with power user shortcuts listed on page 31 in the table. And you can certainly use those. Page 32, move style from one style sheet to another. So the author went through and had you create all of these styles, list headings class, heading 1, header 2, and header 3. Okay. You can certainly have as many style sheets as you need, but it does take the browser a bit to load style sheets. So sometimes having it in one style sheet only makes sense. Okay, and so in this case, that's exactly the reason, the rationale behind it. So we're actually going to move. Again, I'm going to make sure I'm in source code so I can see all my sources. And then we're going to move these just by dragging them up into SU styles. Okay, and then I'll move the header 1, header 2, and header 3. Now when I look at SU or headings.css, and even if I go here, it's a blank file. Okay, so if I go to source code, I'm going to go ahead and remove headings.css. I go to SU styles. I scroll down to the bottom of my selector list. I see list headings, header 1, header 2, and header 3. When I go to SU styles in code view, I scroll down to the bottom, and I'm going to see that beyond that desktop media query, I have these styles. So these are considered global because they're not within a media query. So let's put them in the global section. So I'm going to highlight all of them all the way to the end of the file. I'm going to cut them, and I'm going to scroll up right before that tablet comment. I went too far. So right here before the tablet layout comment, and I'm going to paste them in. So global stays with the global section, and so on. Okay. If you want to take out the spacing between here, you certainly can, just to create maybe a smaller line size. Totally up to you. Okay. So that's directions 32 and 33, kind of in a nutshell. So if I go back to my files panel, I probably will still see headings.css, and I see it up here as related files toolbar. So I'm going to go file, and I'm going to go save all. Okay, and then I'm going to, so if I look at headings.css, there's nothing in there. I'm going to go ahead and delete this file. I'm just going to hit the delete key on my keyboard and delete it. Now I'm going to close out. I'm going to actually do it this way. I'm going to look source code. I don't see it in my list. I'm going to close SPA out, and I'm going to open it up again and see if it's still there in the related files toolbar. And it's not. So sometimes it just takes Dreamweaver some extra steps there to refresh. Okay, so remove it from the source in the CSS designers. Okay, and then make sure that there's no styles left in it, and then delete it from the files panel, close SPA, and then open it up again. Okay, that is chapter 3. How exciting. I just love style sheets. So you want to take and apply now what we have done through Striped Umbrella and actually apply it to Blooms and to TripSmart and as well as to Coffee Shop. So looking at Blooms, we've got unordered and ordered list. We're creating a class called bullet term, storing it in headings.css. They talk about related files and media queries, the Adobe Edge web fonts, and so on. When it comes to TripSmart, okay, so TripSmart's a little bit more scaled down in the directions because they want you to apply it even more. So when it says number 5, create a new selector in the headings.css, and then it says list terms, and then number 6 it says choose properties and values of your choice. If you choose an Adobe web font, okay, you need to make sure that that script tag is there. So you need to make sure you go tools and clean up web font script tag so that it is added. And if it's not added, you can contact me, or you can maybe copy it from an existing web page that already has that same font. Okay. So we get into Coffee Shop. Let's go ahead into the assignments page and look at that. So Coffee Shop for Chapter 3 says 2, 3, and 4. So number 2, plan the page content for the page and make a sketch of the layout. Your sketch should include at least one ordered and unordered list, appropriate headings, and paragraph text. Your sketch should also show where the paragraph text and headings should be placed on the page and what rules should be used for each type of the text. You should plan on creating at least 2 CSS rules. Okay, I don't want to see your sketch. If you want to send it to me, you certainly can, but it's not required for handing in. Okay, so this is just a sketch of how you can lay out content. Number 3 and 4, I'll read 3 and 4, and then I'm going to come back to the assignments page here. Create the page using the sketch for guidance, and create a cascading style sheet for the site and add it in the rules you decided to use. Apply the rules to the appropriate content. Okay, so then I say 2, 3, and 4. Since this is a beginning course in Dreamweaver and not a CSS page layout, okay, so it's not a class that you're learning about CSS, use one of your HTML pages from either Stripe or Umbrella, Blooms, or TripSmart to set up your page layout. Okay, so it says with HTML file open, file, save as, save it in the Coffee Shop root folder, do not update links. And then we have to go through all the steps that we did in Chapter 1, where we have to copy over the CSS style sheets and maybe even including respond. So let me show you how to do that. Okay, just a little review. So we come to, let's use index, okay, for Stripe and Umbrella. Okay, so this is where we left off for Chapter 2. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go File, Save As. I'm going to navigate to my Coffee Shop folder, and you know what? I don't have one because I haven't been working on creating a Coffee Shop website. So I click on Coffee Shop, okay, and you most likely will have just a blank page in here called index, okay, that you worked on within Chapter 2 that had your keywords in it, and that had your description in it, and that had 200 words of page content. Okay, so what I want you to do is not save over that index file. I want you to save a file called index2. Okay, so index2, and then I want you to say save. Now if you get this, oh, it went in my ear and it kind of scared me. Update links, no. Do not say yes. If you did say yes, then you just need to do the process again and do update links of no. Okay, and I think I stated that. Let's make sure I stated that in here. Do not update links. I think I'm going to bold that. And so with a no. Okay, so you should get this absolutely the way it should be. Okay, so do I have a coffee shop defined? No, I do not. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So now I have coffee shop and I have an index 2 in there. And again, you'll have an index in there already from your work from Chapter 2. Okay. Now I need to get boilerplate, SU styles, and respond to come over. Okay, so I'm going to go to Stripe and Umbrella, and I'm going to select boilerplate, and hold down my control key. I'm going to grab respond, and I'm going to grab SU styles. I'm going to right click on them, edit, copy, come over. You can do this through your file manager in your system too. And I'm come coffee shop, right click, edit, and paste. Okay. Now I want to rename this SU styles to be CS_styles. Okay. Pops up saying, yeah, index 2 is linking to SU styles. Do you want to update that file path? Yeah, I do. Okay, so now I have my layout again. I don't have my images, okay, and I don't want you to worry about an image right now, okay, for the banner, and we'll work on those, the image that we'll use for a smartphone and the image we'll use for tablet and desktop in another chapter, okay. So what I want you to do is think about number 2, okay, so where it said unordered list, appropriate headings, and paragraph text, okay. So let me come back to my directions and make sure I'm right on where I need to be. Okay. Add your own CSS styles as we did in the chapter in the headings.css. So take your content that you created for your home page and place it over top of this. Okay, so this would be your content. Okay, update this down here to be your address information, maybe your email, maybe it doesn't say club manager, maybe it says coffee shop manager, or whatever title you want it to say. Okay, hopefully you have some headings in here that you can style as well, and then some maybe unordered list, whatever it may be. Okay, once you have done that, so if you've replaced your content, you've updated this information down here, then I want you to go over to your index and I want you to grab your keywords. Okay, so I'm going to use Striped Umbrella's index as my example. In the source code, I'm going to go up to the head section. And actually you won't have to do this. No, you will have to do this for coffee shop. Okay, so I'm using Striped Umbrella as an example. Do I have my keywords in here? Yeah. Okay, so lines 27 and 28, you will have your keywords for your coffee shop. You're going to copy that, go into your source code, and you're going to paste it right before the closing head tag. And mine are there because I'm using Striped Umbrella as an example. But let's just imagine they weren't there. I would paste them in there right before the closing head tag, and again, these are going to be your keywords pertaining to coffee shop. Okay, so I don't want you to lose that, and then I want you to go ahead and update the title of your page too to make sure that it is coffee shop. Okay, maybe I need to put a little checklist out there for you on the assignment page with regards to this. Okay, so once you have all that information copied over, then you can go ahead and take this index 2 and save it over your index file. Okay, add some styling as it states with headings and maybe subheadings, maybe you create a couple classes. You do not have to do how they said, or maybe even how I said on the sheet here, you don't have to do them in headings.css directly. You could do them right in CS underscore styles. So I'm going to update these a little bit. Okay, so if you have any questions on what I need you to do for coffee shop, please let me know. Bibliography. It says experiment with text color contrast. So what I want you to do is go out there and I want you to search on experiment with text color contrast with regards to websites. You're going to get a lot of different sources coming back at you. Again, to receive full credit, you must supply 2 example sites, and summaries must be that of at least 2 to 4 complete sentences, just like we did in Chapter 1, and put it in the bibliography category, experiment with text color contrast. Okay, so be thinking about colors that you would use, preferably 3 to 5 different colors that you would use for your coffee shop. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and update these directions a little bit on coffee shop, maybe redefine them and give you a checklist as to what I want you to do. And if you have any questions with regards to anything that was discussed in Chapter 3 or any of the assignments, please don't hesitate to contact me. I'm available typically in the afternoon for help as well as on Fridays. Thank you.